Today we're talking about my favorite series of all time. It's Percy Jackson. You're welcome. This is officially a Percy Jackson fan account and I don't know why you expected anything different. I was shelving books at the library one summer. That's what I do in my free time, guys. I am a nerd. I work at the library in the summer and during the school year. I think I read this in like 8th grade. So I mean, if it keeps an 8th grader entertained, something must have happened. Your white suburban mom would gladly pick it up. This book is so dysfunctional. It's so crazy. I don't even understand what happened when I was reading it. Each person in this family has different issues. No, I can't say that. Like every time something profound happens, I'm like, are you kidding me? Did I just read that? Madeline Miller owns a part of my soul and I am more than happy to let her have it. Right now, my attention span isn't that long. On one hand, he's written very well, and on the other hand, I'm not going to talk about it. If you're in for a YA fantasy that has character decisions that don't necessarily make sense, but at least it's entertaining. I'm not going to explain what this book is about. I just want you to like read my mind. You get it? You get why? Okay, we're moving on. No words need to be said of why I love that book. You know by now. You know. The next character is Jason Grace, and Jason gets so much hate for inherently just being different than Percy. I don't think people understand that Jason's like his own person. A lot of people don't like him for like the decisions he makes, but I think people are just like afraid to realize that he's just not Percy. He has different motivations, he has different end goals, he has a completely different mindset than Percy, he's raised in a different culture than him. And I think the hate he gets is a little bit unwarranted. Like maybe he deserves like 2% of it, but overall he's a good character and written very well. Their characters are supposed to be foils. Their characters are supposed to be opposed to each other. Like, have you guys read The Mark of Athena? Like, that was the whole point of it. Anyway, the prompt is an upcoming book that you'd like to get hit in the brick to read right now, and that is what is it called? Oh, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It actually came out a few days ago, so it's not upcoming just yet, but it's around that time that I'm gonna say it is. I'm behind on all the new releases anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's a standalone by Victoria Schwab, and Victoria Schwab is one of my favorite authors. She always impresses me in different ways. Like each of her series impressed me in different ways, which is so refreshing and new in an author. I mean, they're similar in some sense, but at the same time, each are so different and so unique. So I can't wait to read this one. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, from what I understand, follows a girl whose deal she makes with the devil and how their lives intertwine as she like lives forever. And I think they're like their only companions because they've lived together for so long over the span of centuries. I don't know. I have heard mixed things about it because I think some people are reading it for different intentions. I've heard if you're going into this book for a romance between a devil and a girl, you're not going to get that, which is understandable because Victoria Schwab doesn't write the most up-top romances as you could like, but I never think romance is her true intention of the story, so I'm just going in for this one so I can appreciate the writing and the lyricalness and how everything flows together, especially the fact that she's been writing this book for over 10 years. Like there has to be something in there that's gonna make me emotionless. The next character is Piper. I absolutely adore Piper as well. There will be no Piper or Jason slander on this channel. Not in my vicinity at least. She's an absolute queen. She does the most. Just because she is not Annabeth and just because she isn't as soft-spoken as Hazel doesn't mean she's not a good character. For this question, the prompt is a book you love that someone else convinced you to read. Honestly, that could be most of my favorite books because all the booktube recommends them, but a personal recommendation I got is from my friend Rebecca to read the manga for Attack on Titan. We're going to be talking about this in my August/September wrap-up because this series is a new part of me that you're gonna be seeing a lot more on my channel. I recently got into anime and I don't know why it's taken me so long to do that. Anime is just a new form of storytelling, and as someone who is a writer, a reader, and enjoys all forms of art, anime is just wonderful. Rebecca convinced me to watch the show and I fell in love with the show. I've seen it 3 times in the past 2 months. The 4th season is coming out soon, so you're gonna hear me not shut up about that. All of Twitter probably knows by now because that's all I tweet at this point. I read all 42 chapters, which I think is 10 volumes in one day of the 4th season because like the first 3 seasons are animated from the manga. I did read those as well, but the 4th season I flew through in one day. If you haven't watched Attack on Titan yet, go watch it, but it's not for everyone. It follows a civilization where, I don't know what to say, the world is overrun by titans, and there's certain select groups that are set forth and trained to attack these titans. Oh gosh, I don't even know how to explain it because I'm rewatching the series again, like right now, and I can't comprehend it. I don't know. I love it. If you're interested in what other animes I've watched or plan to watch, I'll link my Annie list, I believe that's what it's called, down below, and you can just see what I've rated stuff. I hope I can make anime related content in the future, but you know, I started watching anime in like August, so I'm not very experienced on the whole anime world right now, but I hope I can get more experience by watching more. Anyway, about Attack on Titan, Rebecca convinced me to read the manga after falling in love with the series, so I read the manga. It blew me away. I'm in pain. I have no words. It's still not over yet, but when it is over, your girl's gonna be crying for a good 5 years. The point of this question is to go watch Attack on Titan. There's a dubbed version on Hulu, and there is a sub version on Netflix and Hulu, I believe. Just go watch it. We're gonna be talking about this much later. I have so many thoughts, like a whole analysis. Let's move on. The next character is Leo Valdez. Leo is my favorite like male character. I don't know, he's just the best. He's so funny. He just seems like an all-around wholesome person. And the prompt for this is the funniest book you read. Weirdly, I don't really read a lot of funny books, or at least there's some books where there's like funny scenes in it, but right now I honestly can't think of anything. So if you have any funny book recommendations, let me know down below. I don't normally reach for happy content. If you do reach for it, let me know, because you must have a very stable life, but not me. I'm here to read about pain. The next character is Hazel. Hazel is such a gem. Like, can we just talk about how she's just been through the most and she remains to be such a sweet and kind-hearted person? The prompt for this, an old / book you read a long time ago and you still love, and that's gonna go to My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. I read this in middle school, I think. Maybe younger? No, I think I was in middle school. My twin sister recommended this book for me and I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up, and she absolutely loves it. I've only read it once, which is completely horrendous from the fact that I think about it like once every 2 months ever since I read it, because it's just that unforgettable. I also watched the movie for it. My Sister's Keeper is gut-wrenching, and I know many of you have heard about it, so it might not be that old, but I read it when I was younger, so I'm counting it. From what I remember, My Sister's Keeper follows these two sisters. One sister has a lot of health problems and needs replacements and implants and things like that, almost like monthly or year-round. So in order for her to survive and have the best treatment, her parents give birth to another sister who is essentially born so her other sister can live, and if she needs like a kidney transplant would happen, or other situations like that. And the second sister, who's inherently been born so her other sister can have a life, sues her parents for like having wrongful control over her body. And it was just a very conflicting story, because you think about first how selfish it is that of course you want your sister to live, of course you're going to give anything for her to maintain stable, but on the other hand it's also, you need to think about her daughter's freedom, how she's never had a childhood, every time she's always at the hospital just so her sister can have a life, and it's about individuality, but at the same time is what you would do for other people. I made it sound really complicated because it is, but at the same time it was such an easy read. I just think about it so often that I really need to reread it soon. The next character is Frank Sang, and the prompt is a book that you were afraid to reach the end of. Honestly, any thriller I read and enjoyed applies to this, so I'm just gonna recommend my favorite thriller, and that is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Gone Girl is my favorite thriller of all time. It's one of my favorite books of all time. That and The Book Thief are like my two recommendations I usually give to people when they ask me my favorite book. I've read all of Gillian Flynn's work. This is by far her best, and I will argue with you on that because it is astronomically better than her other works. Not that her other works aren't good or anything. They're great as well. But Gone Girl, masterpiece. A masterpiece. I'm not going to explain this book. Twists and turns from the first chapter to the very last page. That's all I'm going to say. Go pick it up. You probably read it by now by how popular it is. I've never read any thriller that comes in comparison to Gone Girl. The next character is Rayna, and I love her as well. She's such a strong character and was written to be so independent and such a warrior. I remember there was a period where everyone hated Rayna because Rick didn't give her a love interest, which is like internalized misogyny. Let's talk about it. Let's unpack it right here. Rayna, written so well. She just reminds me of why I just love women. Women are just superior. And the prompt for this is a book everyone hates but you love, and that's gonna go to A Darker Shade of Magic, or at least the whole series by Victoria Schwab. I've seen very compelling reviews, feeling very strongly of how much they dislike this book. And I'm not going to completely say that all of them are wrong. I think where they're correct is the characters in this book are unlikable, their motivations don't necessarily make sense, and they're written to be very far-fetched, or they're written to be very bland with like one sole focus or intention in mind, which isn't the case, you know, with humans. But on the completely flip side of that, I don't see it that way. I see these characters' motivations to be so compelling. The reason they're built up in other areas is because they have one sole focus in mind, and you might see that as single-minded, but I see that as complex. A Darker Shade of Magic by Victoria Schwab is an adult fantasy series that follows Lila Bard, a cross-dressing pirate, and Kel, who is a magician that can travel between worlds. If you're interested in like Avatar and magical elements and a mystery, but at the same time the world building and the writing and the plot and the characters are just written exceptionally, I would pick this book up. Again, one of my favorite series of all time. I just don't think anything really comes in comparison to the feelings I felt while reading this. I did read this in 8th grade and then I reread it this year, and after rereading it, I realized how so many things I read in that book carry over to the books I read right now. So when you read books that touched you in a specific way, it's kind of hard to see criticism towards them that you don't realize yourself. Alright, next character we have Octavian. I hate this guy. And the prompt for him is the book you would punch with no hesitation, and no hesitation I would punch Stalking Jack the Ripper by I don't even know who wrote this in one heartbeat. It was just so bad. I DNF'd it, and I honestly never really DNF books, so the fact that I DNF'd this one, which is kind of well liked by people, a bit surprising. I thought the plot was incredibly boring. I thought it was predictable. I thought the characters had no depth. I think the only salvageable part of it was a relationship that was building between the two main characters, but the main girl was just so infuriating, and she didn't have her priorities straight, and nothing exactly made sense, especially in the world that's set in. It's set in like London during the time with Jack the Ripper and everything. And if you're in for a good story that has London written very well and has characters that have depth and dialogue that makes sense towards the plot, I would read the Infernal Devices series by Cassie Clare, because Stalking Jack the Ripper was like inherently just a ripoff of that series. At least that's what I felt like when I was reading it. I honestly never recommend the Infernal Devices series. It's my least favorite Cassie Clare series. It's just not my thing. So the fact that I'm recommending it over Stalking Jack the Ripper means something. Alright, we've made it to the last prompt, and that is Perciveth. Perciveth is lovely. The slow burn that built over 5 books, so wholesome, so cute. But it is not my favorite relationship in the series. In fact, that goes to the relationship that builds in the House of Hades. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read the House of Hades yet, you're in for a treat. It's my favorite book in the Heroes of Olympus series, at least. The prompt for this is a book with the best romance. I have a lot of romances that I love, or like specific OTP shifts. I have a whole shelf on Goodreads if you're interested. I should also make a video on that. So many videos to make. The only romance I can think of right now is, of course, Chain of Gold with Cordelia and James. Childhood friends to lovers. They complement each other so well. There's a light and the dark trope. I can't even explain how much they mean to me. When Chain of Iron comes out, you best believe I'm going to be the most excited for some Cordelia content. Go read Chain of Gold. Isn't that funny how I started with Chain of Gold and now we ended here with Chain of Gold? It's not even funny. You should expect it. It's like, what do I even talk about anymore if I don't talk about Chain of Gold? Anyway, that's that. That's the Percy Jackson book tag. This was so fun. I hope you do this, or even read Percy Jackson. If you have a different answer for one of these prompts, I'd love to know. I'm always looking out for more books. I hope you stay for more content, and I hope you enjoyed this video.